Welcome, gentlemen. I'm here today with Ben Pollinger, Senior Vice President of Exploration for Excellon Resources, Canadian-listed silver miner. And with me also is Jens Gutzmer from in Freiberg, actually in Saxony, founder of the Helmholtz-Institut in Freiberg. And again, welcome to both of you. And for a disclosure, maybe we start with saying that the two of you have a little history together. This is not a coincidence that we're on this call today. Ben, what's the story?
Actually, when I was in university back in South Africa at the RAU, Jens had the privilege of teaching the economic geology. So we have a long history and have been on a few field trips and road trips together. That always ended up being quite fun. At least for me.
That's really interesting. You are South African by background. Is that correct?
That's correct. Good. That's correct. Yeah.
And you, Jens, you have previously taught in South Africa, then, correct?
That's right. I spent 16 years in South Africa before I.
Okay. Fast forward to Freiberg. Fast forward to the Silver City project, and Silver City is a reference to Freiberg because Freiberg used to be called Silberschatz. And the amazing thing is here, Excellon is about to re-enter what I refer to as a long-forgotten silver mining camp north of Freiberg in Saxony. And I find it just amazing to think about that this is, you're just about to start drilling now, or in the middle, you are in the middle of the first drill campaign right now, but this drilling is actually going to be the first time that this area has ever seen drilling, because when it closed down in the late 1900s, drilling as an exploration technology wasn't even around. So I find that very, very interesting from that perspective already. And the other fascinating aspect before we go into questions is a political one, which is that the fact that the reason for the closure of this silver mining camp there was a political one, which is the switch from the silver standard to the gold standard in the late 1900s. And even further than that, in the socialist era, nobody bothered about silver because silver was deemed to be the capitalist metal. Anyways, Ben, let's go with no further ado. Why can you explain to us why exploration is bold enough to spend exploration dollars in Saxony?
Yeah, I mean, we are really excited to be exploring in Saxony for a bunch of reasons. I mean, the Freiberg camp that you referred to, the Freiberg mining district, has been prolific throughout history. There's been like 800 years of production out of this area up until the early 20th century, and as you said, it hasn't been explored by modern methods since then. It was really the work that the University of Freiberg did that. Once I started to look at that and started to get into that research by researchers by Matthias Burisch, and then building on that, Jan Schulz Eisenberg, that you really start to be able to capture the kind of the science side of that, and then you put that into the context of history, and then hats off to Globex, our partner on this, who initially staked this property, and Matthias Jurchheit, who had the concept after 20 years working in Mexico and saw this. And then you start to put all the pieces together. And when we started doing the research on this, it just started to line up. When this was first presented to us in Saxony, I didn't know a lot about mining in Germany or much about Saxony in particular at all. And once I started to see the grades and see the historical records, it made me think twice. And that was actually when I reached out to Jens and said, "Hey, Jens, I know that you're working in this area. Is this real?" And he responded very quickly. He'd actually just been looking at some stuff in this area, so it gave us the incentive to get over there and check it out and have a look at it. And once we did that, it became very evident that this is a very special part of the world and to be exploring, and that the epithermal silver belt, in this Brownsdorf trend, which we have 36 kilometers of strike along, in outside Freiberg is definitely a prolific silver belt and has the potential to see a lot more. And one of the things, just to be clear, like we're very early stage exploration right now from a kind of like an evolution perspective. We're just putting the first drill holes into this, so I think there's a long history or a long future in terms of drilling and categorizing before we start talking about any kind of mining scenario. But really excited to be, have really strong partners on the project and to actually be drilling on this historical belt. And I feel very privileged to be the first person involved in putting these drill holes into this project.
Yes, well, that was a comprehensive overview, and I hope you can see that. I just share that with you. Yep. This is how the mineralization looks, at least when it's put into the museum, which Freiberg is also famous for. Jens, for me, two things were really striking. One is the comparison effectively to Mexican epithermal belts, and that seemed to me a little bit bold at first. And secondly, looking at these images here, the state of mining, silver mining specifically in Germany, is more like museum stage, isn't it? Yes.
Well, certainly we have an excellent collection of historic specimens in the museum here in Freiberg, which one cannot overemphasize its importance, because it gives us a reference. You alluded yourself to this, that the mining stopped in the 1870s, and geological knowledge was completely different to what we have today. So if there was no historic record of all specimens, it would have been very difficult to align what we have observed or our ancestors have observed underground in Freiberg to what we observe today in Mexico. And basically in parallel to Matthias, your guide in Frankfurt, basically thinking about his experience in Mexico and convincing Canadian capital to come in and explore this, Matthias Burisch and myself thought about that we know nothing. We have these beautiful specimens, but we don't know how the mineralization originated. And when we started looking at it, we very soon came to a very similar conclusion. And we were just too glad when Globex came onto the ground and said, we are claiming this, because we feel there is a similarity and there may be a lot more below the historic mine workings. Yes. And therefore, it's a beautiful coincidence, basically. Let's go back 150 years later. Yes. And look what's underground and look how we can interpret the geology today.
Well, and if you find what you believe that this might be there, this could actually really redefine Germany as maybe, or putting Germany on the map as a silver, let's say, destination for silver, let's say, exploration, and of course down the road, if really successful, even silver mining. But that definitely would be, as you pointed out, Ben, a longer midterm perspective for a couple of years. I'm just sharing with you the overlook to the north east of Freiberg. This is the license, 30-kilometer license, and maybe Ben, as an exploration geologist, why don't you talk to the image currently and fill us in a little bit?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of things that really I like about this image. One is it shows you the size and scale of the license that you see there, as well as where some of these old historical mines were. And then the other thing is the table on the top left there. That was put together based on historical production records, dating back to the 18 all the way through the 1800s. And when you look at the widths and the grades there, that was one thing that caught my eyes. Like there really is potential here for a scenario that you can plan down the road or look down the road where you can compare this to modern extraction techniques in other places in the world, the grade and widths here are compelling. The size of the license is something that really also excites me, because when you're doing regional exploration, you really want to start with the biggest possible piece of something that you can have, and then you work your way inwards and smaller until you get your target defined. But if you were to take this property, for example, and drop it into its equivalent in Mexico, along between Zacatecas and Fresnillo, for example, where billions of ounces of silver have been mined, over the last few centuries, this would pretty much cover a large part of that production, and there'd probably be 20, 30 other companies in there as well. So from our perspective, having this. And the information that we have to support this, and being and having this license to explore on is a unique and very special opportunity for us. Yes. The other thing that's really cool, and you touched on as well, is silver. And just in terms of silver really is kind of like a green metal in terms of its use in technology, its use in medicine, a lot of new applications that are becoming more and more relevant for it. And like in Germany is a manufacturing country, actually uses a lot of silver in manufacturing as well.
Yes. Jens, we talked about, before this interview, we had a little bit of a discussion, and you introduced me to the fact that, where this license is only on the fringes of a way bigger system. And I just, for that reason, I pulled up this Freiberg map here. Maybe you give us a little bit of an explanation what we can see here on a high level.
Yeah, well, basically, you have a very schematic geological map on your right-hand side of this, and you can see a basically almost roundish domal structure with a lot of red lines in it. And these red lines are obviously hydrothermal veins. These are more than 1,000 veins that have historically been explored and exploited in the district. And the red ellipsoid basically shows you where Excellon's, more or less where Excellon's exploration license is right now.
Yes.
The Broinsdorf area. And you can see that the center of the district is right on the town of Freiberg. That is why the town is there. It's basically an assemblage of historic mining infrastructure that has now developed into a modern industrial city. Look, in the center of the district, we had mining in the 20th century until 1967, mostly for lead and zinc. Mm-hmm. But on the fringes, where Excellon is now, mining ceased earlier because it was focused on silver. Yes. And when silver prices collapsed, you mentioned that because we moved off the silver standard, mining collapsed, and they did not stop because of the end of the veins or something like that, because it stopped because of metal prices and because of high water volumes. This is not a problem for modern exploration. Obviously, it's not a problem for modern exploitation.
Yes.
Now, if you would go a bit out, basically, if you go to the south, to the southeast, to what is called Branderbesdorf, you will see very similar mineralization going basically, and that has been exploited to depth of 600, 700 meters, which in Broinsdorf has only been exploited to 300 meters.
I think it is really important for our audience to understand that this is not just by coincidence targets having been generated, but those were well known and they are part of a way bigger system. So Jens, there is also a professional reason for the collaboration between Helmholtz and Excellon. On a not so technical basis, just fill us in. What is the scope of that work?
Well, really, I need to stress that three parties really in that collaboration. There's the Bergakademie Freiberg, in particular Matthias Burisch, with his work on the genesis of the district. There's been a couple of beautiful papers, one of which produced the map that you're seeing on the slide here. That's classical economic geology, work. How did this deposit form? How did this district form? And what can we learn about exploration vectoring? The Helmholtz-Institut Freiberg is in this collaboration because we have developed a lot of competence in hyperspectral sensing, meaning we scan the drill core that Excellon produces, looking at alteration minerals, looking at systematics that could again point us to more ore, maybe even in drill cores that appear not so well mineralized. And obviously Excellon is in it because at least we hope that Excellon is learning a lot in our collaboration to place the next drill core.
So, but just to put this right, there's no financial correlation. It's really research on your side. You're happy for a Canadian exploration company to spend the money and produce fresh drill core for you to analyze. Is that pretty much what it is?
That's what it is. We have historic specimens. We have looked at those. We had no access to modern drill core, and we really believe that we will learn a lot for the genesis of this deposit, for the systematics of this, and we will hopefully learn a lot that can be used in future. Even if Excellon moves off the target and says it's too low grades, remember that the specimens we have in the museum now were taken in the 18th and 19th century. Excellon and we benefit of this. So why should we not generate new knowledge now?
Yes.
Maybe of benefit to Excellon right now, but it will be beneficial for future generations. So it's absolutely sustainable, what we do.
This is actually, sorry, Sven, this is actually a fundamental belief that I have is anytime you do any work on a project, anything that you can do to preserve that for the future and to keep the records as well as possible it's on you. It's like your responsibility. So, I very much agree with what Jens is saying there. And just another thing is just like the availability of expertise on this project right in Freiberg, right next to the project is again something that's very special and unique to this project.
Yes. Yeah. Ben, I've pulled up basically the priority target. Maybe you want to speak to that map if you are allowed to, and also just give us the idea of how much are you drilling and whereabouts are you and how fast would you expect first results?
Sure. I really like this image because this is really a compilation of kind of all the work that we've done, put into this more cartoonized image, but shows a very good example of all the things we've talked about. This, on this sample or on this image, we reference the fluid inclusion work done by the University of Freiberg and Dr. Matthias Burrisch. You can see the black lines that make up the historical workings that our guys sat down and went through the historical mine plans from the 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, and regenerated that in 3D. You can see the surface, beautiful farmlands. Also, the people operating here are partners of ours. We've been able to negotiate access for drilling on this, and then you see that it's not just a one vein story as well. We believe that there's potential here to see parallel zones in multiple veins within this, and potentially have some surprises along the way. The bottom kicker statement there talks to the targets. If we were to start to hit those kind of widths and those kind of grades in this really becomes one of the preeminent silver exploration stories in the world, and that's what we're looking for. Mm-hmm. So with through the Oberbergkamp, the mining regulator in Saxony, we've permitted a 2,500 meter or 15 drill hole program. The initial program is planned to be smaller, but what we wanted to make sure is that we had flexibility in the event that we were successful, that we could expand that program. So we might not do the full 15 holes, or if we're successful, maybe we will. But we wanted to maintain some flexibility within that, in the event that we like what we see. So we're starting up that drill program now, and hope to keep drilling for the next few months and see what we get.
Good. And you have earmarked in the order of $1 million Canadian for this field program for this season in exploration here in Saxony, right?
That's correct. Yep. Okay.
Well, maybe to wrap it up, Jens, is there what do you perceive from the let's say authorities on one hand, and on the other hand, from the broader public? Are they supportive? Are they indifferent to what's going on? Or is it even hardly known? How would you summarize that?
I would summarize that in general, the public in Saxony, especially in our region, is supportive of exploration and of the raw materials industry. Definitely the Oberbergamt, as Ben said, is very supportive of the companies that are exploring here. But I would expect that once the first results are coming out, there will be a sensitive period where the public would like to be informed. And I'm pretty sure that together with Excellon and the partners here on site, we will be able to handle that public attention that the exploration will get.
Well, thank you to both of you. I'm hoping we can continue this conversation at some time, unless you, Ben, want to add something now.
Just to Jens's point as well. It's one of the things that we've been very sensitive about from day one, is making sure that we're out in the community, speaking to the community and making them aware of what we're doing. And I'd just like to say that the guys that we have running this project, Kirsten Kuhn and Jörg Nesler, are both doing a great job in making those steps and making those introductions before we show up, which is a critical step of doing exploration right.
On that note, showing up isn't that easy in today's Corona times. When are we going to see you or the CEO coming to visit the project?
This is the first drill program I've done in my career. I wasn't on the ground when it started up, so I'm very frustrated. But also, again, talk to the level of expertise available on the ground and the team that we've actually been able to attract to this project. So we've been able to get it permitted, which is really a great testament to the support of the Oberbergamt, and to have our guys, the team that we put together, be able to execute during this time and execute in a safe way has been critical for us. And it just speaks to the quality of resources available to this project. To your second question, as soon as it's safe to travel, I will. I look forward to getting over there and seeing the core myself.
Okay, beautiful. Let's hope that we can meet there and on the spot as well with you, Jens. With that, thanks for your time. And again, this is definitely warranting a follow-up. I really liked the communication between the three of us. I think it gave a really good background on what you're about to do here in Saxony. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us, Sven. Yep. Thanks, Jens.